Hey everyone, Dan here. Before we get into it, if you enjoy these videos, please hit the like and subscribe button. It helps a lot. And also keep in mind, these are my own thoughts, opinions, and ideas. These are not meant to be, nor should you take them as investment or trading advice in any way, shape, or form. Do your own due diligence, put in the work for yourself, and make your decisions based on that. Enjoy. All right, folks, here we are after market close on Thursday, January 27th. We're going to take a look at SoFi. So SoFi got caught under its slew of EMAs here today. This is on the 10-minute chart and just was stuck under the 12 all day long. Obviously this is incredibly disappointing. It's lost support of this 1208. You see it tried right here. But at this point, it's drawn down further, and we can plot some new levels on the chart, unfortunately. And we'll do that when I pull up the daily. But while we're here, taking a look at its sort of comrades today, there's some obvious reasons, it seems to me, for the big move in SoFi today. Obviously, one, the market overall is feeling pretty challenged, and also SoFi had a decently green week last week because of the bank charter, and so it's sort of primed, sort of perched on this elevated tower, and so it's getting knocked down a little bit harder, right? Where all the other stocks sort of drew down in conjunction with the market or in conjunction with the sector last week, whereas SoFi kind of went against the grain. So it's just basically catching up this week, unfortunately. And if we look at Upstart here, 6% down today. Affirm down almost 8.5%. Now Robinhood had earnings after close, and even though it drew down over 6% today, it still is dropping over 10% at the moment in the after hours. I think they had some misses, but we're going to want to be careful as we approach earnings. I'm hoping that SoFi's earnings aren't perceived like Robinhood or Lending Club, which we see here, which dropped 29% today, a bunch of which happened when they reported earnings last night, and then recovered a little bit, but then just bled in the pre-market and throughout the day today, as you would imagine. So pretty rough for the sector, pretty rough response to earnings, and like I said, sort of extra tough on SoFi because of the week that it had last week. And if we take a look at the daily here, we see we dropped below this $12 level. So not anything that anyone wanted to see, but here we are. I'm going to clean this up a bunch because like a lot of these things, we just don't need at this point, and it just sort of clutters the chart, and I think can tend to make it harder to spot things. If what has sort of evolved to this point continues to play out, we can basically just remember that the levels up to like 17, 18 were basically just on the 50 cents and on the dollar. And so, if we try to sort of scroll left and see when's the last time we were in like the 11-ish dollar range, obviously SPAC days here with the $10 floor. So we can put in some levels here and kind of see what might make sense. Now, this one makes sense to me from having several support and resistance levels contained in one level there. And then if we come up sort of one step from there, to me, it would put us about 11.10. So it sort of continues to follow that pattern of that's probably just 11, right? The psychological $11 level. And then 1068 is probably more accurately going to be played out as like 1050 on the 50 cents. So those are the levels that hopefully can keep SoFi in the double digits, but I mean, who knows at this point. So I'm going to leave these upper trend lines there because hopefully sometime in the near future they'll come into play again, and we can have a look at how the price interacts with them at that time. Now, speaking of the weekly chart, just to get a clear gauge, obviously we've been drawing down here since the week of November 19th, so we've had several weeks in the red, or overall in the red, a few in the green. But last week, we'd come up a little over 5%. So even though last week felt like a really solid week, it was really just up over 5%. And obviously, like I said, that was going against the grain of the overall markets. And so just a tough spot to be in. So this week it's down over 18% at the moment, per my Webull chart here. Hopefully that's accurate. If we look at the QQQ and the weekly here, just for sort of reference. So while SoFi was up about 5% last week, QQQ was down 7%, and then QQQ has continued to draw down an additional 3%. this week. So you sort of see the disparity there of SoFi getting kind of perched up on a tower because of the bank charter, where everything else was really harshly drawing down. And so this week it's drawing down like extra harsh because it was in that sort of elevated position. Now, does that play out differently long term? I hope so, because the way that this sort of washed away would kind of be perceived as, so the bank charter didn't really mean anything other than this very brief short-term catalyst. But I'm hoping that that's certainly not the case, and I'm hoping that, like I have been saying in these videos, that talking points around guidance and how the bank charter will impact guidance and hopefully allow them to raise guidance will allow them to go against the grain from what we're seeing with Robinhood and what we saw with Lending Club, because we certainly don't want any of those reactions to happen, but they certainly can, and we've seen it before with SoFi, right? Their first earnings in the public sector. So that's where we stand at this point. I'm just kind of batting down the hatches and kind of waiting to see when the dust settles. But it might be a tough few quarters, to be honest. Like I had mentioned in last week's video, or a video a couple days ago, I don't know if it was at SoFi or if it was in the markets video. I tend to think that even above and beyond the inflation concerns and the interest rate concerns, I kind of tend to think that the tapering that's going to happen is going to actually drag the market down maybe more than those forces, or sort of like the dark horse that I don't think is getting as much attention as the interest rate hikes and the inflation in terms of their impact on the market. So I'm really on the lookout for, because I just feel like tapering is definitely going to happen. The others are still kind of could sort of change course maybe relatively quickly, or I guess in a nearer term than the tapering. I think that that's sort of very assuredly going to happen, maybe unless there's some really bad reaction in the market, which obviously is not what you want to see either. So we'll see how it plays out, but there's plenty of videos out there on those things, that folks that can dive deeper into it, but that's just a feeling on my part and not SoFi specific. So, but to the extent that SoFi is just getting dragged along and is suffering along with everyone else, here we are. All right, folks, I hope that your trading week is going okay and you're finding sort of ways to survive, be that if you're parking cash on the side, or if you're playing, the bear pullback side of things, or, however it is that you're doing it. I hope that you're doing it successfully and well. And as always, I appreciate you watching, and I will see you in the next video.